Insurance rates are skyrocketing for aviators. We're going to find out why in this episode of In the Hangar. Welcome to In the Hangar. We're going to be talking about insurance for aviation. I'm Dan Milliken, and we are sponsored by Wingfield Aviation, your trusted and transparent source for aviation mechanical work on your plane. Also, we're sponsored by Flying Eyes. Christy and I both love our Flying Eyes sunglasses, and you can get them on a link below in the description. Highly recommend them. All right, let's get to it. Today, we're talking insurance for aviation. It's a touchy subject. Things have been changing dramatically, and with me today, I've got Jerry and I've got Deanna from Clemens Insurance. Guys, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, so let's launch into it. Jerry, tell me about Clemens, how you got started, and your experience in aviation.
I started in insurance in 1985, so it's been a while. Aviation has been part of our family since I've been born. So my dad was a test pilot for Cessna, and he was also a crop duster and all of that. Flew helicopters, and most of our family were all pilots. My kids are pilots, my wife, everyone. So it was a good mix to have, in our business, in our aviation insurance business is only part of what we do. We do aviation insurance, plus we do all other lines. We do farm insurance, commercial insurance, auto and home, everything. So with the aviation, it's nice for us because we already know aviation because our whole family's in it. And we kind of understand what a pilot goes through on a daily basis. And we can understand if the type of aircraft, what they need to be in specifically on an aircraft. So,
all right, very good. Deanna, tell me about yourself and how you got into aviation insurance.
I do strictly aviation insurance. I started aviation insurance when I moved back from England when my spouse was in the military. I've been doing it full time since October of 2001.
So right after 9/11.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do wholesale aviation. So we work with all different agents and.
Okay. All right. So that's the background. You guys clearly aviation insurance experts. Okay. I've been flying now for 5 years. I own my own plane. I've dealt with insurance. I'm dealing with insurance right now. What you and I were talking before. Insurance seems to be changing. Tell me about that.
So you're talking about your 210.
Yeah.
And a 210 is a great platform.
Love it.
Just incredible performing aircraft, fun to fly. So used to be just a few years ago that, we could you could fly a 182 and you could do this small transition. We could put you in a 210 pretty easily.
Insurance wise.
Right. Mm-hmm. But now as if you listen to Deanna or me, either one, we can tell you that you probably need 300 hours of retract time and
300.
Okay,
wait a minute. And by the way, we're at Stearman Field, so we've got the runway 100 feet out there, so we're going to hear planes go by at times. But wait a minute, 300 hours. I got my plane 3 years ago, and I think they required 20 or 25 hours of retract.
It's that much different.
And just in 3 years?
Exactly. 3 years.
300 hours of retract. So if I were doing this again and at the point I was 3 years ago, I don't know that I would have been able to buy it or at least not insure it.
You would have to go a different direction. And so, we spend a lot of time talking to pilots, and hopefully they call us before they go buy an airplane. Because the worst thing you want to do is be able to go out and buy something like that and not be able to find insurance for it. Or, you might be able to find insurance, but it's just going to be so ridiculous that it takes the joy out if you have to put all your money into an insurance policy.
Okay, so why? Why has it changed so much in 3 years?
The market's shrinking. We've got aviation insurance carriers that have stopped writing aviation insurance.
Okay.
They've lost their their reinsurance. And so less markets means less competition. The rates are going up.
Just due to competition?
Due to
Is it, but what about, it seems like there's been an increase in general aviation accidents.
It does have to do with that. Some people are saying that it is due to the Boeing, all the aircraft being grounded. Boeing has
The 737 MAX?
a lot of the insurance companies actually have their grounding coverage with multiple carriers. So that pushes the rates up.
And so that affects general aviation.
Yes, it does. Because all of those carriers that wrote that insurance also write insurance for the person that owns a 150, a 172, a 210.
Okay, so if I were doing it today, and at the time I just started renting a Cardinal and flew off my 20 hours or whatever retract time that I needed from insurance only 3 years ago. If I were doing that today, what would I do if I had my heart set on a 210 and I had 20 hours?
If you had your heart set on it, you could pay for it.
Yes.
I mean, we can do it. I mean,
So it's not that I can't get insurance. It's just I'm going to pay through the nose.
It's-
Now I
it's
paid through the
expensive.
nose 3 years ago. I paid a lot of money for my insurance. The following year, now I flew the pants off of it in that first year, and I had 200 hours by the end of the year. And when it came around to re-up, my premium was half.
Right.
yeah,
So
from 25 to 200, it's a big transition.
Yes.
yes.
So you're doing a great job if you put that much time in.
So that helped a lot. So for the aviator out there, what do? They either pay through the nose or they try to find retract time.
It costs a lot less to fly an Arrow or a Cardinal. And so if you want to build time and save money, well, you can do that.
And we've been talking specifically the retract, the 210. Now, why the Cardinals are retract? Why is that significantly less than the 210?
Well, you look at the whole value of one versus the other is going to be a lot less. The liability, a lot of the liability, you have a 6-place aircraft versus a 2-place or a 4-place.
Yeah.
And an insurance company looks at how much liability they have per seat.
Okay.
And so you look at that Lockheed Electra out there. How many seats does it have?
That's 7. Yeah.
So it's, the potential loss is also looked at in seats. It's not everything, but it's part of it.
So the Lockheed owner is probably paying a ton of money in insurance and doing these little runs.
I have no idea.
Oh, he's not going.
I just met him.
Okay. Well, we're
So-
going to, yeah. Okay. So I have a friend that is part of a club, and they just got a Centurion. And he reached out to me asking questions about my own insurance experience. Of course, I told him what I went through 3 years ago, so I didn't understand why he was having so much trouble. But why is the club having so much trouble insuring that Centurion?
So aviation insurance, the rate is typically based on the least experienced pilot. And so if you have a guy with 0 time and a Centurion, you're going to have to pay for that. And so, then they're also going to look at frequency of use. You've got all of these guys flying the aircraft. It's not just one guy like you. So you've got the exposure. And what is the exposure? You've got first the 0 time guy, and then you've got maybe 6 or 7 other guys, and they're all going to be flying the airplane. It's obviously going to be more exposure than it would be for a single guy. And so it's going to cost more. And with what's going on today in the market, everyone gets to play along with those rate increases. It's just not one group.
Okay.
We have people that are calling us and asking the question, is it just me? And which it's not, it's everyone. So
Okay, so the rate increases, just to make sure I understand, the rate increases are due to the troubles at the commercial level with like Boeing, and it's also due to an increase in GA accidents.
So the number one thing I believe that the cause for the rate increase is that the insurance companies are not making money. And how you can tell that they're not making
Oh, that's
money
right. They shrink. Okay.
is that we've had multiple insurance companies pull out of the market. And for various reasons, but the most time that a company will pull out of the market is because they can't make any money at the rate that they're charging. And so they have to leave. So if they're making money, they're obviously going to stay. But if they can't make money, what would you do? You'd pull out too.
Okay. All right. Let's take insurance from the very beginning. So the student pilot who, when I started flying and going through school, my school actually didn't even mention renter's insurance. It wasn't until um, a small little incident that I won't get into that they said, you might consider renter's insurance as well. What do you recommend for the student pilot? Should they mess with the renter's insurance or what?
That's a great idea.
I do too. I highly recommend renter's insurance because what people think is I'm just going to take out 5,000 or 10,000 non-owned physical damage to rent an aircraft. But if they ding that aircraft and it's out of service for 30 days, you can be guaranteed that flight school or the whoever's renting that aircraft to them, they're going to charge them for loss of use. If it's down for 30 days, I recommend people look at what aircraft they're renting and calculate how much per day use that aircraft could be. I try to tell people 30,000 for non-owned physical damage. The liability depends on who they're carrying.
Now then we get to the pilot who's going to buy his first plane. Now, you mentioned the danger of the person going out and buying something like a 210 right away and then finding out that insurance. What's the process? Should somebody find out what the insurance is going to cost and how do they do that before they decide on the plane? I mean,
I think a lot of people go out and look at an aircraft that they've never even been in before and buy it. I mean, we've seen this a lot where a guy will go out and buy an airplane he's never been in before and he's never gotten insurance quotes before. And first of all, what I would do is make sure it's the kind of airplane that you really want and that it fits the mission. And for me, it's a joy to talk to people about those types of things. We had a guy the other day that called from Kansas City and he hadn't flown for 10 years. And he called just to talk about what type of an airplane he should buy. And we talked about the cost of insurance, but that's not everything. We also talked about, what it costs an hour to run the aircraft. And if that specific aircraft would fit the mission that he wanted to complete. And so, yeah, we do insurance, but it's fun because we can maybe provide a little bit more than just here's your rate.
well, because you guys are all aviators. Yeah.
Yeah, we live that passion right along with them.
Right.
And so it's just it's a joy to do.
All right. Okay. So, what advice would you give to pilots? Like, what's the number one issue that you seem to come across that if you could speak to all the pilots out there that you would tell them?
What do you see the biggest thing that's a problem?
I see people underinsure
Yeah.
on liability.
On liability, not whole value.
Right. Most people really want to protect their investments, so they really are keen on what the value of their aircraft is. I think that people do underinsure. If you're carrying passengers on that aircraft, if you can get more than 100,000 per seat, I would do it.
So you get your liability insurance, for example, like $1 million liability. And this is a big mistake that people make as well, because they look at their policy and they say, oh yeah, I have $1 million. But then a lot of times after the $1 million, you'll see a slash and then a sublimit. And what that sublimit is the amount of liability you have per passenger in your aircraft. I would say that 90% of all of the general aviation small single engine aircraft out here, that sublimit is $100,000. And so you think about that, if you're in your bonanza and something terrible happens and everyone dies, the most that insurance company is going to be out is $500,000 if you have 6 people in there, because they're not going to pay that sublimit to you. They'll pay the other 5 people $500 or $1,000 or $100,000 a piece.
Okay.
And so if you have an estate at all, and that thing's in your name, and what kind of predicament does that put your family in?
Right.
Because the FAA says there's nothing wrong with the plane. Dan just made a mistake and killed everyone. And so you're liable, your family and your state is liable for that. And you have a $100,000 limit per passenger. It's not really that good a coverage, but it is the standard today for general aviation. So it's not abnormal. If you see that on your policy, your agent probably didn't do you a disservice. I'm not trying to say that at all, but you need to be aware of what you have. And one of the things that we like to do when Deanna and I, we work together a lot on this. When we set out a quote to an underwriter, we ask for the underwriter to quote all limits that are available. And that way, an insurance company might only offer that low limit. Might be the only one that they feel like you're eligible for, that they're willing to accept. But what we like to do is tell the insurance company to offer everything that they're willing to do, so that we can go back to that customer and say, here's what they're willing to do. You choose what you feel like is going to best fit you. That way, I don't want to be the guy that says, Dan, you just need 100,000 or you just need $1 million. Here's what we can get for you. And so you can decide yourself what you want, rather than just us telling you what we think you need.
Okay, a lot of people don't understand, I think, how insurance companies work and everything else. Maybe some people do. Now, you guys are brokers, right? And then there's insurance underwriters. And you go out and find the underwriter, let's call that the product, and you bring it back and present it to your customers. So let's go past that now. Hailstorm comes in, like happened to me, and my plane gets all dented up. I call my insurance company, but then so what happens is that all you guys are going to do is send me to the underwriter, correct?
No, we're not going to send you to an underwriter.
So how does it work?
So let me explain how our business works and how we work with Deanna.
Okay.
So Deanna's company is called Nason Associates. They are a wholesale insurance broker, and they broker their services to agents all over the United States, insurance agents. They never talk to customers. They only talk to insurance agents. I've worked with these guys for over 30 years. But then my situation is unique because I'm direct with carriers, but then I also use these guys.
Okay.
And so they're so good. I'm telling you that having someone with this type of knowledge and their staff, oh my God, they're insanely good.
Okay, I thought Deanna was part of
Well,
Clemens.
it's like it because we've been doing this for 30 years.
Okay.
So, but we have 2 different companies.
Okay.
And so we just have this great gelled relationship that's worked for so many years, and we don't want to change it because we just love it. And we've worked together for so many years, it just works.
So if I were to have that claim, I would call Clemens. I call you, and then what happens?
No customers call them. They
Right.
just call the broker.
So I call you, and then what happens?
We discuss it, and we look at your options. We talk about physical damage, things that we can do with your aircraft. We look at liability issues that you have. Like, let's say, for example, that you were texting and you run into the tail of someone's airplane. We tell you the scenario of how this is going to go down and what's going to happen. We report this to the insurance company. The insurance company hires an adjuster, very similar to the way if you ran into someone's car.
Okay.
That's the similar process. It's totally different people that are doing it because aviation insurance adjusters are never in cars. At least I've never seen that.
Right.
So Anyway, but it's a similar process. Liability is a similar process, and so is the handling of the property.
So I would only deal with you then?
You would deal with me and the insurance adjuster.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right. Well, very cool. All right. Closing thoughts. Any other things that you would want the airplane owner out there to know and understand? What would that be?
Be patient. Remember the last 10 years, all the decreases they got.
yeah, that's true. And you know I think the patience with the carriers this time is going to be kind of a big deal because it's not over.
No.
So, and I thought it would be after a couple of years, and it's been 3 years of them doing those rate increases, and we all keep pretty good ties with those companies, and we're trying to get the temperature of them, and it's going to continue. The rates are going to continue to go up, and the underwriting practices are going to still get stiffer than they are today. What about the future? What's going to happen in the future with this? What I hope happens is that other companies that possibly were in this market before, and they see where the rates have gone and where the underwriting practices have gone, if they get back involved in this, or new insurance blood comes back in, we hope that happens so that the rates and underwriting will become more competitive, because the more competitors there are out there, the more competitive the rates will be.
All right.
And so let's hope that happens.
Well, thank you, Deanna. Thank you, Jerry, for coming on. And thank you guys for sponsoring this ACCA event here.
This is why we did this. It's fun.
Yeah, so it's been great being out here. So, all right, thank you guys.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, so there you have it. Your insurance rates are climbing. Be patient. Hopefully, we had years of decrease. Maybe we can get back down off this horrible mountain that we're on. Fly safe. That's one factor that can always help is less accidents. And we'll see you guys next time in the hangar.